Hello all, and welcome back to 100 Days of Magic. Here we are again, day 38. We are starting to make some spells to improve your life in ways you could never have. I'm your host of these epic 100 Days of Magic, Donna Woodwell. I'm also the owner of this space where we're meeting the crossroads of magic and mastery. It's my hope that I can hold space for all of you who want to change your own reality bubble and see the magic that is all around you and learn how to plug yourself into it for your own self-development, but also for the development of the world. So thank you all for tuning in, especially those of you who have come day after day. We are building some strong magical habits. Our broadcast has become a ritual in your life. And just like we make other rituals to make space for magic, this is one of them. Jackie, hello. I'm so glad you are here today. In my head, I'm calling this Jackie's spell for discernment. The first thing that we're going to be talking about over the next 4 days. So everyone else, if you want to use Jackie's spell for discernment, I'm sure she would be more than happy to share with all of you. Need a drink of water. Hold on a second. I was out walking in the fields with my dog this morning, and the fields have allergy stuff. I thought I'd gotten over my coughing fit before I started, but almost. Okay. Whew. Let's get back to work. I can speak again. Okay. So, as we make a spell for discernment, spells, as I said, have beginnings, middles, and ends. And the beginning starts with understanding some concept of what you are doing. Once you've narrowed down your intentions and you've chosen the tools that you're going to work with in the planning stage, then you do your actual spell, and then you wrap it up with keeping track of how it's going in your spell. So we're going to be working on Jackie's spell for discernment over the next 4 days, starting at the very beginning for what is discernment. Now, for those of you who might have a Christian background, might be a word that you're used to from the spiritual practice of Christianity. But the roots are deeper than that. Discernment's a concept that is tied deeply into the Greek classical virtues. When we think about how to make choices, whether they be choices between what we're going to eat for breakfast or what the right path to follow is, or what the right partner to be with is, all of those ideally are conducted with wise judgment, or as the Greeks said, practical wisdom. It brings in the part of you that is logical. It brings in the part of you that is intuitive. It wraps them all up in a sense of moral virtue, and it hopefully opens you to the impact of spirit. So discernment is the process of making good judgments that are aligned with your spiritual self, which sounds really good until you realize that one of our challenges as three-dimensional human beings down here is that there's an awful lot of noise that we create, that our bodies are creating for their day-to-day ups and downs, that our emotions are creating based on what's happened in our lives, that our minds are creating because they're filled with so much static in the world around us, that listening for that still voice of spirit can be a challenge. Now, in my shamanic training, working with the wheel, one of the things my teacher used to say is that people in the Western world tend to want to make decisions with their intellectual mind only, not realizing that is your intellectual mind is designed to bring in information and sort it out for you. It's not designed to make decisions in isolation. Spirit is the one that makes the decisions, because when it does, that keeps you aligned with your deeper sense of self. Okay? So, given what we've just talked about discernment, when I work with creating magical spells, I always find it the simplest path, especially for anyone who has worked with some kind of astrological principles, because Western magic is built around the language of the planets. There are 7 buckets that contain consider it like the over deity. Lots of deities fall in the different buckets, but the 7 buckets are the 7 visible planets, and each one takes an area of life, and those areas of life are very broad and vast. So the first thing I would ask for any spell is which of the planetary, or which several of the planets would take ownership of manifesting something in this area, because that gives us a range in which we want to work as we are learning how to construct the pieces. So, given everything that I've said about discernment, we can, if you're not sure which planet to choose, because this one has a very traditional association, so I'm going to walk through the logic. If you're not sure who to choose, let's just go through the options. Let's start at the outside one, Saturn. Saturn brings our energy down, and he can help us stay focused because he's very disciplined, but his energy is looking at our feet. So discernment doesn't usually invoke Saturn as the primary deity. Not that it can't, it just doesn't. Jupiter pulls our energy up, and it can connect us to spirit, but anybody who's connected with Jupiter energy, Jupiter's like, it's all good. I want this, and I want that, and I want this, and I want that. And that doesn't necessarily help with the whole, I need focus on what I'm going to do, because we might scatter our energies in lots of different directions. What about Mars? Well, Mars is great for energy. It can get us up and going and moving toward a target. But like a good soldier, Mars needs a general to point him in the right direction. Otherwise, Mars is off shooting at all the wrong targets. So we save Mars in our back pocket when we need a lot of energy and oomph to get to where we're going. What about Venus? Well, Venus attracts things to us. Venus is lust and pleasure, and she's happy to be attractive, but for her, it's about, does it feel good? Not so much about what the big picture is. Moving in, how about Mercury? Well, Mercury can be a really interesting option, but Mercury's ideal at connecting all the dots together, and because he weaves things and he holds, so he can help you plug into spirit and bring spiritual energy down. Definitely for that. But as it comes to making decisions, this is the reason why the Native Americans said the mind is better at gathering information and organizing it, and not about making decisions, because the mind connects to Mercury very strongly. And Mercury is really good at going in between all the places, doing all the research and organizing it all up. He doesn't care so much about what the purpose is. So now we're getting down to the moon and to the sun. So the moon reflects the sun's light. So the moon is really good at capturing, it's good at nurturing, it's good at devotion, but it doesn't see as clearly as the sun does, because the sun is the biggest, brightest thing in the sky. So it's really no surprise that the classical virtue associated with the sun was what the Greeks called prudence, but we might, which is practical wisdom, but we might easily define it as discernment. So in this case, the sun is probably your best option for working with if you want to create a spell or a ritual to bring additional discernment into your life. Discernment to see your life purpose, discernment over what choices to make, think about what the sun is. It's the biggest, brightest thing in the sky that helps us to see clearly. It is also the metaphor for the divine spark within us. And so it kind of covers all of the bases. It helps us to see clearly. It helps us to see the truth. It aligns us with our divine spark. It traditionally had the power to choose. It helped us to capture our free will. And because of all of those things, your relationship to the sun is what you're going to be working with or tapping into when you are trying to figure out what the best course of action is. It's the right balance of all of them. So that means tomorrow, when we come back and start planning what our spell is going to look like, we know what discernment is. We need to connect to our spiritual self to help us see the truth and make a better choice in all situations or a specific situation. But to work out those details of Jackie's discernment spell, Jackie and I are going to have a conversation, which I'm sure she'll be willing to have as we design her personal spell for her. So you're not off the hook for the next couple days, dear. You're going to have to answer the questions that I ask you in our Facebook group. Tomorrow, we're going to decide what form our spell is going to take. So we're going to need to plan. We know what our main driver of connecting to energy is going to be the sun. We're going to need to figure out what physical manifestations of the sun do we want to use. What is the sun like? So things like fire, the sun is fiery. Things with light, the sun likes light. Our possibilities. Things that involve making it with light. We need to get all those things in place and then match them to Jackie's personal preferences for what she likes to work with. Is she a fire girl? Is she a water girl? Is she like earthy stuff? Does she like rocks and crystals? Does she like airy things? So somewhere in between what the sun likes and what Jackie likes is the optimal practical form that the spell is going to take, because once we do the spell on the next day, magic doesn't end once a spell is cast. The energy is going out into the universe to make it happen, but then you have to act in alignment with the changes being made. Some of these books say cast a spell and forget about it, because if you chew on it, you're ruining the energy. And yes, that has a little bit of a point, because our minds start to worry at things, worry in the sense of, gnawing on it to nibble around the edges. You don't want to do that, but you also you don't want to do nothing, because doing nothing is not acting as if it's already happening in your world. So a great example, my poor friend, I've been using this example forever. When I was in college and the downstairs neighbor needed to sublet her apartment for the summer, and she's like, I'm not worried, God will provide and sort it out. And I'm like, that's awesome. Wouldn't it be easier for God to provide if you put up a few advertisements? And she's like, I didn't think about that. So having spirit on your side is super useful. It greases the wheels. It makes things happen faster. But just think how much faster than that it can happen if you make really easy paths to manifest the spiritual energy coming toward you, so that it has a place to flow. You have some expectations that you are doing your part. And quite frankly, if I were spirit and I were listening to people, oh, please, please, can I have this? Can I have that? Can I have this? I would be a little sick of it. I would be like, I will help the people who are working actively to help themselves. Because spirit knows we don't grow up until we stand up and actually start to exercise our muscles for ourselves. Our point in being here is not to just sit here and be blobs. Our point is to do our best, to do our part. Your part doesn't have to be perfect. Your part doesn't have to be even well executed. Your part needs to show that you are trying. I think that is more than enough, but you do have to try. So tomorrow, today, the rest of today, Jackie and I are going to have a little conversation about what things make her happiest, and we will use them tomorrow to go step by step to create a ritual. For those who are in my Magic and Mastery Coven, there is a ritual sheet, a ritual design worksheet that is in your helpful resources section. You can also go over there. I will put up a note in your private group and you can download it for yourself, and we can work through this on that side as well. But we'll do what we can out here. We'll work through the steps, and once we do that, we will have designed a spell. And then when it comes time to do your spell, you know what you need to do. You don't have to memorize things, but you will know what's happening, and you won't sit there going, or going, oh, I don't have that. And we will then do the spell together. And then on the last day, we're going to talk about the finishing of a spell, the keeping notes, the keeping track of what works and what doesn't work for you, what felt awkward, what felt cool, and then keeping that up to date, once a week over the next weeks to see how this spell has made a difference in your life and how to reinforce it if you want even deeper results. Deal? I bet you're all happy. This is going to be cool. So we are doing Jackie's first because of all the things that people ask me for in this group for the kinds of spells that you want. Pretty much everything that we do starts with discernment. If you don't know what you want, it is really, really hard to do a spell. Well, there's really no purpose because you have no idea what you're manifesting and why. So I was hoping that someone would ask the discernment spell because I could start out with that and all the rest would begin to make sense. All right? So if you haven't added the kind of spells that you would like for yourself, if you would like to go through this process with me and we can design something for you, please find the thread in the Crossroads of Magic and Mastery and add your request to the list, and I will work it in. We have, what day are we on? 38? We've got like 60 days left. If I spend 3 or 4 days per spell, I've got enough time to fit in probably 8 or 10 requests. And we will, by the end, really get to see how this process works. Okay? All right. Until the next time, I look forward to seeing you tomorrow. And Jackie, you will hear from me very soon. Take care, everyone.